Hello everybody, this is Dr. Neil Goodman, MD. I'm a biohacker with another edition of Nutritional Biohacking to Wellness. I'd like to welcome you to this video presentation where I teach my audience about the benefits of nutrition and nutritional biohacking. My guests learn how they can be healthier and more resilient to illness and aging. The benefits, of course, are having not only a longer lifespan, but also a longer health span. This may be the single most important health presentation of your life. I call it the Biohacker's Guide to Wellness and Aging. I need to make an FDA disclaimer that I do not make claims to treat, cure, or mitigate disease.
My name is Dana Marie Maiello. I'm a retired Army government service employee, a writer and author and entrepreneur, a mother of a veteran combat Marine son, and a daughter who is a nurse and grandmother of 3 boys.
Semper Fi.
Semper Fi. I was introduced to LifeVantage in 2019 while on a movie production set. At that time, I was recovering from PTSD and traumatic brain injury from a car accident. I was undergoing hyperbaric oxygen treatments to regain my abilities to read, write, and comprehend. A young lady on the movie set asked me if I had ever heard about NRF2 activation. I said no. She then asked if I would like more information and invited me to an educational meeting. Before and after this meeting, I was suffering inflammation and pressure in my head that I knew would take at least a week of hyperbaric oxygen treatments to provide me some relief. The young lady named Nicole gave me 1 tablet containing NRF2. To my amazement, the pressure and the pain in my head was gone in 45 minutes. And I thought, wow, and I wanted to learn more about this company and their products, because this miracle that I just discovered was instant, and I just wanted to know. Once again, I want to say welcome. I'm excited that you all decide to come and hear this medical breakthrough that has been transforming lives, and my life is one of them. I'd like to turn this over to Dr. Peterson here in a moment. So now I'm able to help my family and friends. I partnered with this company that is a leader in nutrigenomics with cell activation. I now know the power of proper nutrition and key nutrients that are essential to optimal health. I know this because Dr. Goodman, our featured speaker, and people like him, and a pioneering company that has invested in science-based effective products. So I want to acknowledge our featured speaker, Dr. Neil Goodman. Dr. Goodman, you're one of the best presenters I've ever heard. I first saw and heard you live at in an audience of 5,000 at a convention center in San Diego in 2019. Your scientific explanations and display blew me away. Your audience appreciated your knowledge and experience, which goes a long way to educate those who are eager to learn. Dr. Goodman is one of the best science educators we have. He has a special commitment to his task, having been a major in the United States Army Medical Corps. We all here are lucky to have him with us this afternoon. I'd like to thank you, Dr. Goodman, for saying yes. I'm also blessed to have Dr. Peterson as a business partner and hosting with me today. He's a retired board certified anesthesiologist specialist. He has over 35 years experience in the medical field and caring for his patients. Dr. Peterson, please introduce Dr. Goodman.
Good afternoon, and I'd just like to say thank you all to everybody who's shown up, taking some of their Saturday afternoon time to learn a little bit. Hopefully you'll have a little fun. I've not seen Dr. Goodman's presentation, but I hear that it is scientific, but at the same time, a pleasure to watch. My story is not nearly as exciting as Dana Marie's, other than I was turned on to the science of this company about 8 months ago. And since that time, I've done a fair amount of reading and understanding, and what they have is unique. The ability to activate NRF2 genes via nutrition, which is also now called Nutrigenomics, is new and it's exciting. And Dr. Goodman is going to present it hopefully in a way that everybody understands, and it will get you excited about the opportunity that you see here. We are going to let Dr. Goodman give his own story, and I hear from the sunny state of Florida that he's about ready. So without further ado, we're going to let Dr. Goodman take over the floor and entertain and educate us.
Guy, Dana, thank you so much for the opportunity to present to your audience, and I really appreciate your acknowledgement and recognition that the information that I'm giving and have been giving in many conferences and presentations is taking hold, and people are starting to understand this incredible application of science and nutrigenomics. I'm going to try here for a couple minutes and share my screen. I've got to go through a couple little technical contortions here to get my slideshow up. So let me try to do that first. I want to share my screen, and you might see a couple of little things flip by here as I figure it out myself. So bear with me. Okay, very good. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right, well, again, thank you for the introduction. First, let me give you a little background. My name is Neil Goodman. I'm a practicing board-certified pediatric and adolescent medicine subspecialist, former chief of pediatrics in my area at the Southeast Georgia Health System. I was a major in the United States Army for 14 years. I did a tour of duty at JTF Bravo, which was part of the Iran-Contra Nicaragua affair back in the day in the 1980s. I trained at Fitzsimmons Army Medical Center in Aurora, Colorado, and I got my medical degree at our University of Toledo Medical College of Ohio. And my undergraduate degree was in microbiology and immunology. I'm currently a practicing physician for the last 36 years. I have an active practice, and I'm a fellow of the American Academy of Pediatrics, a member of the American Academy of Anti-Aging and Medicine, as well as a member of the Institute of Functional Medicine. And of all of those different titles, the thing that I really enjoy being a part of the best is this company, LifeVantage, which I discovered about 4 years ago. So let me, with further ado, let me go ahead and advance my slides here and talk about, I want to also mention, this is my wife of 36 years, who was also a major in the medical corps and is a successful OBGYN and robotic surgeon at our hospital in a corporate practice. She runs a separate side gig as having a women's medical spa, where she specializes in surgical and non-surgical female rejuvenation and also uses the science of nutrigenomics in her practice. So the title of today's talk is The Biohacker's Guide to Wellness and Aging. And I'd like to make the FDA disclaimer that I am an educator in this role, and I don't make any claims to diagnose, treat, cure, or mitigate disease. If you haven't seen this ABC primetime video of John Quinones in 2005, I would really encourage you to watch it on, and you can write this down, www.biohackandactivate.com. That's www.biohackandactivate.com. It really is essentially the story of the LifeVantage company and it's absolutely captivating. So, human health and wellness has its basis in maintaining the 5 core pillars of health: oxidative stress, mitochondrial function, sirtuin function, the concept of the second brain, and the concept of the first brain. Now, the first 3 pillars comprise the 3 theories of aging as we understand them today, and the 3 signaling gene pathways that are responsible for their actions. Those signaling pathways are what were mentioned before. First, the NRF2 pathway, the NRF1 pathway, and also the NAD sirtuin pathway. So we have 3 pathways that are involved in these 3 theories of aging. But for today's purposes, I'm only going to address the first 2 theories of aging, that of oxidative stress and mitochondrial function. The functions of those first 3 pathways are to neutralize, to energize, and to revitalize. And please don't get bogged down in terminology. I will restate complicated terms so that everyone can understand this. My job today is to bring a complicated science to everyone so that they can have better lives. You don't have to be a doctor and you don't have to have an advanced degree to do what we are going to talk about today. You don't even need that background to be able to share this subject with your family and your friends. We call these 5 pillars of health the core 5. And as I said before, we're going to focus on just the first and the second one, the first being oxidative stress. All right, so let's talk about that. The molecule of oxygen, or O2, is not as good for you as you might think. It's usually found highly bound to itself as O2 as a separate atom. Oxygen is highly reactive. In the air we breathe, it only comprises 21%. The rest of it is nitrogen, CO2, and other gases. You can't really breathe 100% oxygen for very long without suffering some damage from it. And in my field, it can cause infant lung damage and blindness in babies that are exposed to too much of it. So why is it damaging? Well, our exposure to external forces of radiation, UV light, pollution, smoking, inflammation, and cellular waste all create and release a reactive oxygen species that's known as a free radical. These free radicals attempt to steal electrons from everything that they touch. And when this happens, this damage has the ability to hurt our cells and our DNA. All of the environmental factors that I previously cited are collectively referred to as our exposome. This is what we as living organisms are exposed to in our everyday lives, and their effects are cumulative. So we'll refer to those free radicals as the bad guys. Oxidation is what oxygen does to other materials. The effect on metal like steel is easy to see. It rusts. Aluminum, it corrodes. But your cells rust too. They show rust in various ways. First, by developing wrinkles like your skin, and then cell damage occurs, which leads to inflammation. If you think about it, when something is oxidized, we are really talking about burning. A candle flame is a classic example of the oxidation of a fuel. So oxidation is synonymous with burning or being inflammable. Inflammation is essentially the oxidation of flesh. So just as this apple was white when it was fresh, as it oxidizes, the flesh turns brown due to free radical damage or oxidation. So who here, raise your hands and I'll let Dana pick them out from the audience. Who here is taking an antioxidant like vitamin C, vitamin D, or who's eating healthy greens like broccoli or kale? Well, congratulations, you are biohackers. You're taking them to counteract free radicals. The opposite of a free radical is an antioxidant. It binds up and neutralizes free radicals. We want as many of them in our body as possible. It's literally a constant battle that plays out over our lives. Now, there are secondary antioxidants that exist in nature that we can take into our bodies in the form of vitamins and minerals, plant food extracts, and so forth. But they're at the bottom of this antioxidant triangle. Although they're important to have, they're relatively weak and can't possibly contend with the millions of numbers of free radicals that we generate. But we have been given a gift at birth of three primary internal antioxidants called SOD, which is short for superoxide dismutase, and again, don't remember that word, catalase, and glutathione peroxidase, which are at the top of this pyramid and are so much more powerful. They're effective in neutralizing almost all of the free radicals that we generate. The problem is that as we get older, our ability to generate them declines. And as they become less effective, the levels of free radicals begins to rise and starts to have its ugly effects on our bodies. This occurs around the age of 20 in most people. Those antioxidants I like to refer to as the good guys, and I put a Superman symbol by them because they're there to save the day. So when the amount of free radicals exceeds our ability to neutralize them, that's what we refer to as oxidative stress. Oxidative stress is the main cause of aging, and over 400 conditions are linked to it. Now, many organ systems are affected by inflammation and free radical damage. Our heart, our skin, our kidneys, our brain, and many others. And I, as a doctor, have been trained to use medicine to counteract and heal these organ systems. But maybe the better thing to do is to get the root cause injury that's in the center of the first place by reducing this central player of inflammation and oxidative stress. When we do that and bring in Superman, we can increase our cellular production of those three very important internal antioxidants, SOD, catalase, and glutathione peroxidase. So we all have 46 chromosomes that represent our genetic instruction set, and all of our survival genes have been mapped. Your DNA is not your destiny. In our 23 pair of chromosomes, only 20% of our genes are ever expressed. 80% lie dormant, waiting for signals to turn them on. We know that we can influence the expression of these genes through foods, supplements, and activator products. They're part of our exposome too. And when we do this purposely, this is what we refer to as biohacking, which really means life influencing. Our other option is to allow ourselves to be hijacked by the negative elements of our exposome. Two genes in particular code for proteins and enzymes that have been identified as the master regulators of cellular protection. They're the NRF2 and the NRF1 protein. When we activate NRF2 in this case, we're able to increase SOD by an amazing 34%, catalase by 54%, and glutathione by 300% in under 120 days, essentially reducing our oxidative stress by an incredible 40% in just 30 days and up to 70% by 4 months. And it also turns on hundreds of other survival genes besides NRF2 and NRF1. This was studied by multiple prestigious independent institutions such as Harvard, Ohio State University, LSU, Vanderbilt Commonwealth, Colorado Health Sciences, and Stanford, and is cited in at least 35 peer-reviewed publications that are cited at the NIH on their website, pubmed.gov. That means that this is accepted scientific data that is available to the public and has been examined and vetted. So when you biohack, you're optimizing your genetic potential and becoming the best version of yourself. We're using the science of nutrigenomics, We don't want to be hijacked by toxins, emotional stressors, injury, allergens, radiation, and so forth. We're being hijacked 24/7. And look what it's doing to us. So when you biohack, you're using your God-given capabilities to improve yourself and make yourself better than what you are. We're using the science of nutrigenomics, how nutrition affects our genes' behavior. We look at food and nutrition as an instructional code for our bodies. Now let's talk for a moment about supplementation versus activation. We don't want to guess on how to manage our health. We want product-specific research to direct our actions. We want high-quality, pure compounds, not unknown materials in our bodies. We want to know the end result on gene expression and on cellular health. This new science uses today's peer-reviewed, third-party published studies to direct our actions, and we want to harness the power of synergy of ingredients in order to do it. So this is the Superman that we're talking about. Protandim NRF2 Synergizer, developed by the LifeVantage company by the same research scientist who discovered SOD back in 1939 and was awarded the prestigious Chemistry Award for its discovery. It consists of a specific mixture of 5 ingredients: ashwagandha, bacopa, green tea extract, milk thistle, and turmeric. These have been used for thousands of years or more by the ancients, but they really didn't understand what they had, why they had properties that worked. Although each of the ingredients might be an antioxidant in their own right, that's not how we're using them here. They're all weak NRF2 signalers in their own right, but in the correct ratios and amounts, they were able to amplify each other to the tune of 1,800%. This was remarkable, and it's what allowed the LifeVantage company to get the patents that they did. I believe they have 6 international patents and 7 US patents. Together, these ingredients turn on survival genes and activate NRF2 in all of your 37 trillion cells, in essence, telling your body to make their own antioxidants to the tune of millions. So Protandim NRF2 lowers oxidative stress by an average of 40% in 30 days in 99.9% of people who take it. It reduces cellular stress through the NRF2 pathway activation. It induces enzymes capable of neutralizing more than 1 million free radicals per second in every one of your 37 trillion cells simultaneously. It helps to regulate over 400 survival genes and helps the body repair and neutralize toxins. It's the only natural supplement activator that's proven to extend life in mammals by 7%, according to studies done by the National Institutes of Aging, a division of the National Institutes of Health. When we talk about ordinary secondary antioxidants that we supplement with, they only have a 1 antioxidant molecule to 1 free radical neutralization power. That means a 1-to-1 ratio. 1 molecule begets 1 molecule of a free radical. But when we're activating all of our cells, we're creating a 1-to-1 million antioxidant neutralization potential in all of our cells. We're not putting out that inflammation fire with a Dixie cup. We're putting it out with a fire hose. The antioxidant potential in 1 Protandim NRF2 is equivalent to the antioxidant power of consuming 120 vitamin C tablets at one time, 11 pounds of blueberries, 87 glasses of red wine. I'd like to see anybody try to drink that. And 375 oranges. I think I'd have a major stomach ache. Don't you think, Dana? Again, this illustrates the 1-to-1 ratio using dietary antioxidants versus the 1-to-1 million ratio of Protandim NRF2. This is what it looks like in a graph. You see that the oxidative stress line in red climbs steadily after the age of 20. But when protandim NRF2 is given for at least 30 days, the line is flat at all ages, including age 80. This was in everyone who ever took it. And I want to make the point that my statement that protandim NRF2 reduces oxidative stress by 40% in 99.9% of people after 30 days is one that is approved by the FDA. This is a comparison of natural and pharmaceutical NRF2 products that exist in the marketplace. On the bottom right is sulforaphane. This is the natural ingredient that's found in broccoli and kale. Then there's a drug called Tecfidera on the lower left corner. It's a $50,000 a year drug that's an NRF2 activator for treating multiple sclerosis. In the upper right corner, there's another drug called bartoloxone methyl that was an NRF2 activator that had bad side effects in clinical trials. And finally, in the upper left corner is protandim NRF2 Synergizer, a $50 product that completely dominated the field. And yet it's an all-natural, organic nutraceutical. Simply amazing. Now let's look at gene expression in the form of the analogy of a piano keyboard. Here are 63 keys on the piano. Each one plays one note and represents one of the genes that we're activating from the over 400 that are affected by protandim. Let's zoom in on that keyboard. Now let's just look at one octave. In 1969, Grandma bought a brand new piano that was in perfect tune. Look how each note in green flows nicely into the next in a nice, smooth pattern. Now, what would happen if that piano sat in the attic for 50 years? Look how irregular the sound pattern is now. This piano is out of tune, and it also performs badly. It's exactly the same thing with our gene expression. Take a look at these 63 notes or genes and look how irregular our gene expression frequency is after 50 years. Some are expressing too low and some are expressing too high. None of them are normal for that of a young person. Now look what happens to this gene expression map in the presence of protandim NRF2. The genes that were high are now normalized, and the ones that were too low are more adequately expressed. They influence everything from immunity to cell damage, blood vessel stability, and metabolic control. Can you understand now the impact that this could have on our health if they are brought back into line merely because they've been signaled to turn on by this master regulator that we call the NRF2 pathway? Washington State University in 2015 went so far as to say that we may be on the verge of a new literature on health effects of NRF2, which may well become the most extraordinary therapeutic and preventative breakthrough in the history of medicine. There is no other product in the world backed by scientific proof that does this. To restate, NRF2 reduces oxidative stress by 40%. Don't take antioxidants, make them. It fights free radicals 1 million to 1 in every cell of your body. It increases SOD, catalase, and glutathione, and it activates over 400 other survival genes, and it helps to detoxify and removes the trash buildup from years of living. Now, all mammals have this same NRF2 mechanism. They suffer from oxidative stress and age many times faster than we do. The good news is that there's a protandim NRF2 for our pets. This is an example in the next slide of what the skin looks like before and after protandim. And here's a picture of a horse. Look at the horse's coat before and after, and take a note of the weight gain and improved mobility of this animal in just 3 months of being on protandim for animals. Many competition horses have been brought back out of retirement because of protandim NRF2. There is no placebo effect in the animals. Look at the picture of the horse above and the horse below, and look at the size and the coat and the strength of that animal. That's a barrel racing horse. Now, okay, now take a breather for a minute. That's a lot of information. I want to take a short dive into the second signaling pathway called NRF1. NRF1, also referred to as nuclear respiratory factor 1, this factor is involved with the support and creation of mitochondria in our cells. It's responsible for energizing. All right, so this is the mitochondria. This small cellular particle produces most of the ATP, or cellular fuel, that we create from our food when combined with oxygen. It's the most abundant in cells that have high metabolic requirements of energy, such as brain, heart, muscles, and blood cells. 95% of our metabolic energy production occurs in the mitochondria. What do you think would happen if the oxidative stress that we accumulate were to damage not only our DNA, but also our mitochondria, the energy factories of the cell? Do you think that it might affect our metabolism? Our body needs ATP in order to survive. Without it, those cells die. Here's an example of a cell with 3 mitochondria. Look what happens as those mitochondria are destroyed. The cell is left without any power, and it's already dead, even though the nucleus is still intact. It's as though the cell was destroyed from the inside out because of free radicals punching holes in the cellular material and the mitochondria. When mitochondria decrease, your metabolism is decreased. When the metabolism is decreased, it yields low energy and the tendency to gain weight as we become less efficient. When energy is reduced, our ability to heal is reduced. And this in turn also causes decline in thinking, emotional states, and reduces our ability to concentrate, something we sometimes refer to as brain fog. Protandim NRF1 was formulated 5 years after Protandim NRF2 was released. It signals the NRF1 pathway that controls mitochondrial production and supports its ability to resist damage by oxidative stress and other insults. And as a result, there is improved ATP formation, which supports your brain, your heart, your blood formation, as well as overall cellular immunity or cellular metabolism. It contains these 5 synergistic ingredients and acts similarly to Protandim NRF2, but it's focused on the mitochondria. Those ingredients are acetyl L-carnitine, coenzyme Q10, ALA, grapeseed extract, and quercetin. Besides improving ATP production and cellular performance through energy production, it helps the cells to function at peak performance. It helps to improve sleep quality and promotes cellular repair. It improves mitochondrial numbers and their ability to talk to each other, and it also slows cellular aging by supporting chromosome integrity. So these comprise 2 of the 5 components of what we sometimes refer to as the ultimate stack, which is a product that LifeVantage produces. But essentially it functions as a 1-2 punch. They work together in synergy. Now here's a quick video summation I'd like to play for you real quick. Is that amazing? And we're a part of this organization, LifeVantage, and we're so happy to be able to bring this information to you. So biohacking the aging code is now a reality. You now have the knowledge and the ability to change your genetic expression by biohacking. You're able to take charge of your own physiology for the good using natural, super pure, organic food derived activators that protect your body from the damage of the exposome and from years of cumulative damage and abuse. If you breathe air and you use oxygen in the course of living, and this is, of course, all of us, you need this to stop the free radical assault on your body and to halt the progression of aging. You can do this to the tune of neutralizing over 1 million free radicals per second in every one of your 37 trillion cells. And you can turn back the aging code by activating these cellular protection signaling pathways to function at a level of when you were 20 years old or younger. Dana and Guy, I know this might have been a little long, but this is so exciting for me to share this science with your audience. Perhaps you want to ask me some questions from your perspective. I'll be happy to tell you my personal story of how I discovered this myself and what it's done for me personally, as well as for my patients. And I'll also be happy to explain this to the professionals in the group of how I integrated this into my practice of medicine. I know it's a lot of information, but I hope that you get the essence of what I was saying and that you're not too overwhelmed by all the technical babble and get the general concepts of how you can take charge of your health. Guy, back to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Goodman, for that presentation. And I had not seen that before, and I was mesmerized. One of the things, we're going to take some questions from the audience if they have any, but one of the things I would like to ask you is, although you didn't touch on the product Axio, my understanding is that we can look at Axio as an NRF2 activator for the brain. Not everything we take, not every drug we use actually gets into the brain and has functionality there. And my understanding is that you have found application in using Axio for your pediatric patients. Could you just quickly tell us about what your experience has been with that?
Well, I will say that in my practice of medicine, that I use a lot of different modalities in order to help my clients. And also to know that a lot of these products, although they're not specifically marketed for children, I still use them as off-label for children, especially if they're able to swallow them. I've used NRF2, I've used Axio, I've used many of the other products, including probiotics as well as omegas, for various health conditions. But in terms of general improvement in mental capability, focus, concentration, absolutely, Axio is a powerful tool in my toolkit. It helps to increase children's resilience to be able to work through an activity. Sometimes the NRF2 and Axio is a specifically strong combination that I use, and actually brain mapping studies have been done in children and adults who have been on both of these products and have found incredible improvement in their EEGs, or functional EEGs, which show improved coordination of mental activity that shows that they are in fact making progress using these nutraceuticals. Axio is specifically a drink product that works over the course of a couple of hours. It's taken in a drink that is mixed with water or another liquid and is sipped on over the course of a couple of hours during periods where the brain needs to focus, and it's considered to be a nootropic, which is a term that's used for products that help to improve brain function.
Okay, thank you so much for that. My next personal, let's just say observation, would be that being board certified in anesthesiology, our literature contains a lot of chronic pain studies and things like that. And it is my understanding that oxidative stress is one of the common pathways for chronic pain. And so the ability to decrease oxidative stress certainly seems by logic that it would lead to the possibility of improving chronic pain. Have you had any clinical experience with that?
Yeah, I've had clinical and personal experience with that.
Mhm.
A little bit of my story gets into that a little bit. Let me just say that you're absolutely correct. If you think about inflammation, we talk about inflammation is essentially oxidation of tissues, right? And if you are able to reduce inflammation, which is essentially burning, oftentimes when you have pain, we describe that pain as burning. We describe it as a burning sensation. This is literally due to the damage that's happening to fleshy tissues in our body. So if you're able to reduce by a large measure the amount of inflammatory response over the course of time, you certainly are going to get improvement in discomfort and pain thresholds. Now, in my own particular case, I had a herniated disc about 5 years ago that I required a discectomy. I had partial paralysis of my lower extremity, had chronic numbness and weakness for years, and finally sought to get surgical treatment for that. But in the time frame prior to that, I was using, and this was what started my journey, using nutrigenomic products to try to reduce my pain that I had in my leg. I did ultimately require surgery, and at the time that I had my surgery, in fact, this was before I was actually activated, it took me about 6 weeks before I was able to walk again after having my surgery. It was as though my waist was transected. I had no neurologic feeling in my leg after the surgery. And I was really devastated by it. Now, in comparison, 2 years after that, I had a re-injury of my back at a different level, an actual higher level. And I had to undergo surgery again on my back. And following that surgery, I had been fully activated. I had much, much less symptoms of pain after the surgery. And in fact, I was walking one day after the surgery took place, even having a higher level lesion than I did with my original surgery, which was 2 years prior when I wasn't activated, where it took me 6 weeks to be able to walk. I saw that as an incredible thing. And the crazy thing was my surgeon told me, stop all activators, all supplements prior to my surgery, as I should be off of everything in the days before I get operated on so as not to have a complication. I did not take his advice. I actually doubled up on my Protandim NRF2 in the days prior to my surgery, right up until the evening before. And I attribute that maneuver to my successful outcome. And at this time, I'm proud to say that I have absolutely no neuropathy in my legs. I'm probably stronger and more physically fit than I've ever been in my entire life. And that's after having 2 surgeries. And I really feel as though that is a testament to what I've been doing in terms of biohacking. It was literally a transformation for me. I'm 61 years old presently. I didn't expect to have a life after age 55, as I inherited bad genes from both of my parents who died at an early age. They died in their mid-50s. They, unfortunately, my father was a heavy smoker, a 3.5 pack a day smoker, and I lived in that household where he smoked for 16 years before he died and succumbed to his smoking and cancer. It was 10 years later that my mother died of breast cancer, presumably due to that same exposure. So here I had this exposome that I had been living with. I didn't expect to make it to age 55. When I hit 55, I was saying, okay, when is that oncogene going to fire off? When is that exposome signaling my DNA to tell it to become cancerous? When was that going to take effect? That was part of my decision point. I had to change something. I had to change my future in order to have any kind of resilience or to have an expectation that I would live. And I had a complete change in my physicality. I became stronger, more resilient. I can exercise like nobody's business. I can get on an exercise bike and never tire. I have no lactic acid buildup when I work out. I actually enjoy workouts and look for the next workout because my mitochondria are working at peak production. I've reduced all of the inflammation in my body. I've reduced all of the oxidative stress accumulation in all of my tissues. My eyesight improved. I used to wear spectacles that were much thicker than this. And I couldn't believe it. 6 months after I was on the product, I was driving the car down the street and it was like, why am I having trouble seeing? Well, it's because my old glass prescription was too strong. I actually went backward in my eyeglass prescription. I was on a number of different blood pressure medicines that I actually came off of after being activated because I had totally changed my physiology. And I am a product of the product, to be honest with you. And I get so darn excited when I see audiences. Dana saw me in Long Beach, California, and heard me talk to this audience. I gave a talk that was slightly different than this. It was a little more focused on the third pillar, which was the NAD sirtuin pathway. And I brought this incredible display up on stage that I almost got arrested for. It's quite funny, but I won't go into it right now. But just to say that people thought I was a terrorist because I brought some incredible equipment to the stage to demonstrate visually this process of reducing oxidative stress. But when I finished my talk, the audience, I had a standing ovation in the audience. I never felt so much appreciation of the people that were there that heard my message because it empowered, I get calls all the time, it empowered them to make changes in their lives to be better than they are themselves. And now I'm hearing all of these legacy stories afterwards, which basically are mimicked after my own personal experience. And that is what I live for as an educator. To use my story, to use my skill of hopefully transmitting this very complicated subject into something that's a little more simple to understand, to realize that everybody on the planet can do this. And if one person is helped by what I've said or what I've given you as far as information, then I've done my job.
Well, that's pretty amazing. There is a question from one of the Zoom audience asking if there's an age limitation on using the products, especially for younger folks. What would you say to that, Dr. Goodman?
Okay, so in my personal experience, I use it as young an age as I possibly can. There is no certain upper age limitation. I have a 93-year-old mother-in-law who's currently using the product that has made an incredible, has had an incredible benefit on her mental acuity from what she had before she started the product. She had a complete change of life after being on it and had resolved her difficulties and is as vital as I've ever seen her. In terms of young children, I use it down to age 3. It matters, though, whether or not children can swallow a pill or a tablet, but I'll proportion it out according to their size. And I'll be happy to give advice on that offline as far as recommendations for different weight classes. However, I have neurologists that are also using this for many conditions in which they treat as well. I have pediatric neurologists that I work with that are absolutely excited about what they've seen. They call me all the time and they say to me, Dr. Goodman, what have you done with this patient? I'm not going to reveal what their conditions are, but they said that I whatever you've done, I need to know, and that's what got them interested. And then they started utilizing this in their practice as well, and have had the same results. So it's a matter of experience. You just have to realize that this NRF2 pathway is so involved in almost every facet of our being in terms of controlling and regulating not only oxidative stress, but like I said, over 400 other survival genes that have effects on other tissues of our body, that have effects on our immune system, our ability to detoxify, our ability to remove materials from the interior of our blood vessels to improve flow and to improve endurance. If you can just read in between the lines of what I'm saying, just realize that it is operative in essentially every aspect of our being because it exists in every single one of our cells. That's why it sounds like it's a panacea sometimes. Like, well, how could it improve eyesight? How could it improve? Your ability to think? The reason is because it's in every one of your cells. That's why. And so, if it has in fact been signaled, and then those cells go on to regulate themselves for the benefit, for the good, where they repair themselves or have improved function, that's exactly what NRF2 does.
Well, you've clearly reiterated exactly what I felt when I first heard this and what brought me into the business. So I think at this point, we'll probably give it up to close. Dana Marie, do you want to come close and thank everybody for coming, and we'll move on.
Hey, Guy, can I mention one other thing? There are over 250,000 studies on PubMed.gov about this subject, about oxidative stress and NRF2.
Exactly.
I think we may have another question. Is there any more questions here in the audience?
Is the NAD, which has been recommended, good for circulation?
Is NAD good for circulation?
So let me just say that NAD is a different thing altogether. It is responsible for rejuvenation in concert with the other two products, NRF2 and NRF1. There's a specific effect that takes place. We call the tri-synergizer effect that was not discussed today, whereby whatever the effect is of NRF2 is further amplified by 1600% when NAD synergizer is added to the picture. Conversely, if you are already on NRF2 and NRF1 as an activator and you take NAD synergizer, the effect of NAD synergizer is further increased by 1800%. This means that rejuvenation function on all of these products, when used in concert, amplify whatever else has been improved by an order of magnitude, which is an incredible thing. Now, 3 additional patents were filed by the LifeVantage company in October of 2019 because of this research. And I have not even spoken to what the effects of NAD are. But NAD is responsible for all of the heavy lifting in the body and for the repair of both genetic material and cellular material. And it's further helped by the presence of NRF2 and NRF1. So short answer to your question is it helps with anything having to do with your improved health and longevity, for sure.
Okay, I'd like, if you have any questions or want further information, please get back to the person who invited you. If you found this seminar through an event notice, please contact me at Dana Marie Maiello at Dana Marie Impact, and any future events will be on there. And Dr. Goodman, you're very dear to my heart. You speak so well. You've helped so many people. I know you influenced me and you blew me away, like I said, at convention, and it really changed my life. The Tri-Synergizer, now I'm on the Vitality Stack and Axio. So I was able to help my family. My son's a combat Marine vet. I'm working on him, but my daughter and my son-in-law is a veteran. I mean, it just goes on and on. So thank you so much. And everybody have a good evening. And,
thank you so much for the opportunity. And I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to other physicians, professionals, and veterans, especially. Warm place in my heart. So thanks again for listening.
All righty. Bye. Bye, everybody.